Good morning, Don. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Don, looks like you got a sunset going on, or is that just sunrise?
Sunset.
Sunset.
I figured this is the 8th week, and I'm waiting a moment until we have a few more people that come in. And yes, it's late, so it's the last session. So I sort of figured we're tipping over towards the end, so I can bring up a sunset from the other day, from a while back. But anyway,
good.
Okay, this is It's Your Money, week 8. We're going to talk about your money in your mind in a few minutes. But first, Pete, why don't you chat with Jeff?
Okay. This is financial and estate literacy. We do the 8-week workshop, and one of our missions is to introduce people to charitable planning. And so our sponsor for today is Jeff. Jeff is with the Bluebell Foundation. Jeff, what's the mission of Bluebell?
Well, Bluebell is a unique and special place in Laguna Beach that essentially is a cat retirement sanctuary for cat guardians who no longer can take care of their pets because of incapacitation or passing away. And it really ties into your programs because these animals have been provided for in almost every case through their estate planning, and providing direction and funding through their trust.
And that picture that I see on the screen as the little house, is that actually where the cats live?
Yeah, we have two cottages on the property, nestled in beautiful gardens, which we've developed in the last few years. And the cats live cage-free in the two cottages, but they have huge screened-in porches, so they get the benefit of watching the birds and the other wildlife and enjoying the fresh air without having to worry about them running off and heading out of town. So it's the best of both worlds. And most all these cats are senior age cats, just like us. So
how did you get involved with the Bluebell, Jeff?
Well, I was involved after I retired from my career. I spent about 9 years with the San Clemente Dana Point Animal Shelter in San Clemente, and was very involved in a project to raise money and expand the cat care facilities at the shelter. And that took me about 5 years. And when that concluded, I needed another challenge. And I am the proverbial cat guy. I had known of Bluebell, and Bluebell was kind of in a state of transition, and they really needed a makeover. The care of the cats has always been job one, and they've always done a great job. The property is great, but it really was in need of revitalization. And so I've spent literally the last 8 years doing that.
And when when an owner dies or can't take care of the cat any longer, what choices does a person have? Is a friend to take over the cat? Is euthanasia the likely alternative, or is the local animal shelter? In other words, give us some of the alternatives so people can understand that the Bluebell offers the perfect solution.
Correct. And actually, I'd like to answer that question, Pete, to any of our attendees to the course that have pets, especially as we get older. And I've discovered this personally, these animals really become our companions and part of the family. And I think whether you have a dog or a cat or a rabbit or a horse, I think people need to be aware that they need to make plans to ensure that these animals have a secure next step if their current guardians can no longer take care of them. So, and unfortunately, there are very few options. What happens in most cases, a cousin, a nephew, a niece, a good friend says, I'll take care of, Bowser or Buddy or whoever it is. And they never really consummate plans, or the people that volunteer that do not recognize the financial and the personal obligation to fulfill that. So a place like Bluebell handles its full life care, meeting all the needs of the animal, and they go from a home-like setting into a home-like setting. They get all the health care, special diets that they need, and we have 8 or 9 full and part-time staff that take care of all of the daily regular needs, and we have almost 40 volunteers that the best way they like to put it is they become the moms and dads of these animals.
Yeah.
So they go from, it's the best solution possible. But as I'd like to pass along, I've met a good friend along the way that it's been a crusade for her, almost very much, Pete, like your quest to educate seniors on, financial and estate literacy. People don't realize that in the United States, every year, 500,000 pets are euthanized because their owners died or became incapacitated, and they either didn't have plans for their care, or the plans that they had, the people didn't realize the huge responsibility and commitment involved. They end up in shelters. A few weeks later, they're euthanized.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to just let everybody know, if you have a beloved pet, now's the time to revisit your plans or make plans if you haven't already done so. If you have a cat, I encourage you to learn more about Bluebell. We've got the website up here, and we can answer all your questions. In addition to the life care program that we provide for the animals, there's all kinds of information about planned giving. Because even though it's a fairly sizable commitment for people that leave cats with us, we rely heavily on our donors, because I guess the main thing I'd like to pass along to everybody is that, like us as humans, the cost of healthcare for aging animals is going up exponentially. And at the same token, the staffing costs, as we all know, in the current environment, is getting prohibitive, especially for nonprofit organizations. So
Yeah.
we've got two new challenges to continue.
Yeah, you can't, they say the money is the root of all evil. Everybody knows that kind of a motto, but this is an example where money can really do some good. And it takes, when you have a mission, it takes money to carry out that mission. So anyway, Jeff.
It does. And I appreciate, I think that what Bluebell's trying to do goes hand in hand with what you guys are trying to do. And it's a matter of educating folks to make the best decisions possible for their own unique situation.
Yeah. And if somebody has any questions regarding pets, whether it's cats or not, Jeff, could you possibly help them out?
Yeah, we, Susan Hamill, the chairwoman of the board,
okay.
We get calls weekly, and she is an expert on actually dog and cat care.
Okay.
So they can contact Bluebell through the website, email or phone, and we will definitely get back to them.
Jeff, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Love having you as a sponsor. That's the Bluebell Foundation. They're an awesome organization, and hopefully another introduction. There's so many wonderful charities in the world. Jeff, thank you again for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys, for having me, and good luck with the rest of the program.
Okay, bye now.
Bye.
Thank you.
And Don,
Sir.
let's go to the website and figure out how to use the financial and estate literacy website.
Okay, website should be up. Yes, indeed. So to get the material for the handout material, as an example, you would go to the website, which is iyme.org. It's a shorter version of it. So it's yourmoneyandestate.org. And you can click on workshops and you come down to the right side and it says materials. I'll click there. And in this case, it's your money. You can do estate if you'd like to get that material instead. And because it's by week, we're going to scroll all the way down here to the bottom. Week 8. So the handout material for today is here. So that's Mark's handout material in his Ask First form is all there.
Right below is a blank form. And so since this is week 8, the last week of the session, and so we're going to use this as a partially of a review. Please use that blank Ask First form if you're going to talk to anybody about your money. Scroll all the way down.
Yes, sir.
Aha.
Large number of articles.
Yes. And the articles I tried to put on here is more recent. Psychological nudges. It's interesting how the financial services companies are trying to get to our mind. I get a lot of times, especially here in Orange County, what is middle class? And so it's kind of an interesting read. A lot of individuals are confused. Should I go active funds or passive? IFA, Index Fund Advisors, did an entire analysis of all the active fidelity funds. If you're interested, have an engineering background, it is a perfect article for you to take a look at. Investing Proofs, it's kind of a summary of what you're going to get today. The 7 ways your brain makes you a terrible investor. Again, it's a little bit more deeper of some of the things that our guest speaker, Mark, is going to talk to you about today. Daniel Conaham, he's one of the leaders in this area. Decision-making, thinking about thinking is another excellent article. Jack Bogle, probably he is the founder of Vanguard. If you're going to read some books, you may want to take a look at his. A lot of times people ask me, what is the difference between a broker and a fiduciary advisor? You may want to take a look at the 3 R's of fiduciary practice. The 10 Commandments of Money is an article out of AARP. It's excellent. Using heuristics, and we're going to discuss that in a little bit. When to tell clients to spend their money already. When you've been saving for your entire life, sometimes it's very difficult to make that transition to now spending it. And the psychology of consumer fraud. Fraud occurs a lot because because we think that we're going to get something back out of it. Anyway, it's a long study. It's there for you to take a look at. Let's go back to and introduce our guest.
No, not yet. So as a note, incidentally, all of these you can click on and download, print them, whatever you'd like to do with them. But I want to back up a minute. So as an example, so we record all of these. And I have made sure that I am recording this one since I occasionally forget. Someone asked the question, where do you find them? Right here. So I went to last week, watched the webinar replay from week 7. It's available here. How long will they be available? Because that question comes up. I'm going to tell you they will be available until spring when we do new ones. Otherwise, there's no reason to remove them between now and then. So the intent is that they will stay here through the winter. So when it's cold and snowy here in Laguna, you can turn on the fire and rewatch the videos of what all we talked about. And incidentally, you can also go watch It's Your Estate. You didn't have to sign up for both to be able to look at them, but just wanted to let you know that that's how you find them. So each week they'll be right above the materials once they're loaded. How long does it take? Generally, they'll be up like Monday or Tuesday the following week. So I'm guessing next Monday or Tuesday, you would see this one, but they will stay there through the time frame, and that's what we're doing. So now I will go back here to Pete's request, and you can tell Mark to come on up.
Mark,
So
come on up.
what I'm going to do, incidentally, as we always do, I will respond to Q&A. So if you have questions, please use Q&A. Don't use chat. Honestly, it won't work as well for you. And yes, we just had one comment, incidentally, that a friend was passed away and out of state, and try to find a home for an animal is a terrible thing to try to find out after the fact. So kudos to Bluebell in terms of what they're doing. And so I'm going to go away, except Pete's going to tell me to share in just a moment, which I will do. So I will go away and ask questions as we go, or save them for the end. So Tag, you're it.
Okay. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Pete. How you doing?
Good.
Good morning.
Mark is the presentation today. Mark, why don't you go ahead and bring up your Ask First form,
Okay.
so we can introduce you. But I think it was approximately 5 years ago that Mark and I got together, and Mark goes, there's a lot of things about money that has nothing to do really with the money, but it has to do with the mind. And so Mark came up with this presentation that you're going to about to see. But let's learn a little bit about Mark using his Ask First form. Mark, you have a bachelor's degree. Your credentials are a CFP, and I've never heard of a CFT. What is that?
Well, the CFT it's Certified Financial Transitionist. It's kind of a mouthful, but it's a 1 year plus program that I went through probably about 5-6 years ago that teaches you the tools and methods to help people that are going through transitions. And that could be death of a spouse, a divorce, inheriting money, different type of, significant change events. And it gives you the training and tools to help people make good decisions when they're going through a lot of emotional stuff.
And how many years have you been first of all, how many years have you been in the financial services industry? And how many years have you been in a fee-only fiduciary financial planning practice?
So you asked me that on Monday and stumped me. I had to think about it. But I prepared. So I've been in the business since 1998. So what is that? 23 years. I've been in the fee-only business for 18 or 19 years, since 2003. So I guess that's 18
So
years.
I believe you got your start with Merrill Lynch and then transition over to a fee-only practice.
I did, yes.
Talk a little bit about your practice. Give us a little thumbnail sketch of it.
Okay, so RS Crum, we're based in Newport Beach. We have nine people at our company. We work with about 230 clients, and we do comprehensive financial planning, and then also take care of their money for most clients. And
I noticed that you don't have any licenses.
I don't. I did when I was at Merrill Lynch when I was selling stuff, but not anymore.
And so the reason why you don't have any licenses is because you don't sell anything.
Correct.
Except for your services.
Correct.
Scroll down.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't practice law. You put in, you serve 100% of the time as a fiduciary. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then how do you charge your customers?
So we charge on, fee only basis means you can either do hourly, project based, or a percentage of assets that's being managed. So we've done it all. Okay, but we have about half our clients that are on a retainer, which is just a flat fee. They pay us per year, and then the other half is on a percentage of whatever managed money we're managing. And for those fees, everything's all included, all services.
If I give you $500,000 to invest and I say I would like assets under management, what would you charge me as far as a percentage?
That would be 1%.
1%.
Starting 1%, then it
And
goes
is
down.
that paid in advance or in arrears?
Paid in advance.
And it's paid quarterly?
Correct.
And do I have to sign a binding contract with you when I do that? Or if I find out I really don't like you, can I leave?
Well, it is a contract in blood, so it's kind of, so we're bonded forever. No, it's literally, so we have an engagement letter, but it literally says that I can fire you anytime and you can fire me, and then we just prorate fees. And typically we don't even it's just, here's your money back. Let's go.
Okay. You get paid by salary, bonus, by RS Crum. So RS Crum is the registered investment advisor.
Correct.
And you are kind of a registered representative RS Crum.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah, you
that's
are.
my compliance. Okay, so I am. Okay, I don't get involved in all that stuff. I just do my job.
I know. Okay. One of the biggest issues is that for individuals is to figure out who is a broker and who is a fee-only fiduciary advisor. Well, one of the ways you can always tell is by the licenses that they hold. So how do you figure out what licenses someone holds? And the only way you can do that is by going through Broker Check. Mark, can I have your permission to go on Broker Check to figure you out?
Sure.
Okay, Don.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, right?
Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, Don, could you go and Google Mark? Okay, we're on Google screen.
And I've typed in brokercheck.com and it filled in FINRA for me.
Okay, show that on the screen.
It is on the screen.
Not on mine.
It's right up here at the top. It says broker check.
Okay.
I'm looking at what they're saying and it's right there. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter here.
Okay, that's what I meant. Sorry about that.
Okay. And it's going to take me to this one. And that's the one that I want. Pete's going to help me through this.
Okay. So now it says you're on Broker Check and it says individual or firm. So we're now doing the individual. So let's put Mark's name in there.
It's the moment of truth.
There it is. We're going to find out. And then we click on search. So there's a few Mark Rylances in there. Scroll down.
Which one do you want to admit to?
And
The
one
first
of the
one.
ways you can narrow that down is by putting in Newport Beach, California.
What's your zip code?
92660. That is me right at that very first one. So
Oh.
you can actually type in the firm name.
Oh, okay. I
the
see. Yeah.
person's
Okay.
name or the area code.
Yeah.
So
Zip
I'm
code.
going to click on more details.
Yes.
Okay.
See, now it says stay on Broker Check or go to the SEC website. Because Mark does not hold any broker licenses, it's asking you where you want to go. So let's stay on the Broker Check website just for a second. Click
Wait,
on that.
Before we do that, I want to go to this one right next to it. And I know nothing of this person. It does say there are disclosures for this person, incidentally. So anyway,
Okay.
let's stay at Broker Check.
Okay. Say more details. It won't let us go there. And the reason why it won't let us go there, because Mark is not a broker. So let's go to the SEC website, and he's a registered investment advisor, representative. Okay, there you go. So you have 15 years of experience with two different firms. And the most positive is that you have zero disclosures. And so you've been with Merrill Lynch. You were with Merrill Lynch from 2002.
I'm trying to do that math. I started in 1998 and it's 15 years. Okay.
Yeah.
To
Yeah,
figure that out later.
yeah. Scroll down.
Wait a minute. What were you doing from 2004 to 2012?
I was on the
Did-
beach. I have no idea. I've never seen that actually. I guess I
Okay.
have to look at that.
Anyway,
I
just
was
curious.
fully employed the whole time.
You were
So-
spending your clients' money from Merrill Lynch? I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So he took the Series 66 exam, which essentially means that it took him for registration to give financial advice. It doesn't allow him to make sales in the financial services area. Then it gives its current registration. And if you scroll down,
Yep,
it
just a
gives
minute.
gives the Merrill Lynch, et cetera. And look how clean it is. There's no disclosures, been with 2 firms. And do you use the ADV form for your clients?
Yes.
Okay, so if you could scroll up, exam 2 licenses, click on the 2 licenses. Okay, you did have a brokerage license, which you gave up when you were left Merrill Lynch.
Mhm.
And now you're registered with the RS Crum.
Mhm.
So let's see, there should be an ADV form on here. Let's see, you're also registered in Texas. Did you know that?
I did.
Okay. Go to detailed report. It's up in the upper right-hand corner.
Detailed report.
So here's a more detailed report. It goes through and explains what information is on there. Keep scrolling down. So here is the RS Crum, the name of the firm, CRD number. It tells you that he was previously with Merrill Lynch as it was before. And then it goes on. If he did have disclosures, it would explain it right there. There are the registrations. It's not a license. And that tells you what exams that he has passed, professional designations, and there's his CFP designation. And if he were in any, go back up for a second. This is really important. If Mark was doing anything else in the financial world, it would state it under other business activities. The entire registration process, regulation is about full disclosure as far as investments are concerned and as far as advisors are concerned. So for every presenter that comes on our program, we go to broker check and we check them out to see whether or not they have any other business activities. How are they licensed? Do they have any disclosures? Are they really a broker dealer or are they really a registered investment advisor? Okay, let's get out of this.
Well, just one comment, Pete. So I did realize with the 2011, that's when I took ownership of the company. I'm not sure what happened before that. But the ADV is really important too, to look it up. And usually you can just Google a firm's name and type ADV, and they most of the time have it on the website, but it's a really detailed description of how they do business and also all the individuals that are at the firm. And it's really, really important.
So
Not really boring, but really important.
Yeah. So if you clicked on RS Crum, and remember we had a choice of a firm or an individual. If you go to RS Crum as a firm, you would pick up the ADV form online as well. So this is a review. So if you're looking for a fee-only fiduciary advisor, this is the way to go about doing it. Besides interviewing him, and I would recommend that you interview 3 people. What is the average length of clients that stay with you, Mark? The time period.
Oh gosh, I wouldn't even know how to quantify that. We did have our very first client is still with us, and our second client is still with us. That's over 40 plus years.
Yeah, it's you want to do the work up front. And so the hope is that you have a long-term relationship with them. So let's go to the presentation, Money in Your Mind.
Okay. Let's see here. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see here. Okay. You can see my screen, right?
Yep. Let's go through it.
So, well, first off, for all those faceless people out there, it's nice to meet you. And I really do appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. I have to apologize though. I'm a tinkerer. And so the presentation I did on Monday and the live one, I've changed it. And I didn't. So the one that is on their website right now is not what you're going to see right now. So
you're going to put it on but you're going to give it to us and we'll put it on the website.
I'm going to give it to you.
Thank you, Mark.
Someone else is going to put it up because who knows? If I had to figure that out, I'd be in trouble. So
send it to me.
Okay. So, well, anyway, so this topic has been, I love this topic. I've been fascinated in behavioral finance for 15 plus years. I've been writing about it, reading, and it's just amazing, interesting, how really, messed up we are as humans when it comes to finance. But here's let me see here. Oh, it's not advancing here. Oh, sorry. Okay, so here's what we're gonna, I'm gonna talk in 3 segments. One is, answering the question, are we good investors? And I think I've already foreshadowed that the answer is no, and I'll prove that to you. The second part's gonna, kind of go into more detail about what is it that's making investing difficult for most people. And the third part is what do we need to do better? What are some of the tools that we can equip ourselves to improve our chances of success? So the first off is, I'm not even going to ask the question, do you think we're rational? We're not. Okay. And, some of the things that we're not rational with money, we're not rational with investments. And, one thing you may have heard this, we spend 15% more when we use a credit card than we do cash. Why is that? I don't know. It just is what it is. We buy things on impulse that we don't need. We confuse wants and needs when it comes to spending money. I don't know. I have an obsession with those cooler cups at Costco. Every time they go on sale, I buy more. I don't know what it is. And then just recently, I told my wife, that's a want. That's not a need, because I already have 50 of them at home. And so I'm just going to wait 2 weeks and see if I still want it. And, so that's just kind of one of those funny things that we do in trying to segment wants and needs. We also assume the stock market's, going to keep going up. So we have like recency biases, that what we're experiencing now is good or bad. It's going to happen forever. We'll go into more of that stuff in just a second. Okay, so why are we irrational? Okay, one is we just are not trained. This is irrational when it comes to money management investing. One is, we don't have the knowledge. So I'm getting used to this clicker. We lack discipline. But we also have, our brains are hardwired to cause challenges in how we invest. And so I'm going to go through that right now. So let's talk about the proof of my original statement that we're not good at investing. This is a investor report card. This is a report that was put on by the folks at American Funds. There's a company called Dalbar Associates that analyzes what are the returns of people's actual investor returns versus if you just bought the indexes, both from stocks and bonds. And they have a very creative way of doing this. They track money flows in and out and sales and purchases. But over the last 20 years, and I've been watching this for 20 years, probably the last 20 years, the S&P 500, as you can see right here. Can you see my cursor here? Okay.
No.
Oh, you can't. Okay. So the S&P 500 has averaged 7.47% per year. But if you look at the left of that, the average investor has averaged just under 6. So they're trailing by 1.5%. If you had invested 100,000 20 years ago, that's a $100,000 difference just from behavioral stuff that we're going to talk about. On the right side, the Barclays US Aggregate Index is the index for the bond market, the fixed income market. That over that same time period has averaged just under 5%, but the average investor has done a little over 0.5%. So significant underperformance. And I haven't read the report specifically to determine why are people even worse at bond investing. I don't know, but it's just an interesting statistic. So we're clearly underperforming, and the real reason is kind of this kind of ladder of greed and worry that we go up and down constantly. And so, it's these kind of captions kind of detail a little bit.
When I see this now, I'm looking at two particular markets: real estate and cryptocurrency. And I think we're still in the thrill in cryptocurrency. We haven't reached euphoria yet, although we're getting, I think, pretty close. But I think we're now starting to get a little anxious on the real estate side. I'm not hearing as much, hey, put your house on the market, we're going to get 10 times more than what we're asking for. We're starting to get a little bit of anxiety on that end. But it's so if I think back of the 2008 period, and this chart is perfect.
Oh, absolutely. And so I couldn't agree with what you said more. I've experienced in my 15 years, my 20 years plus, every kind of market, every crazy kind of market, as we all have. But you do go through this period where you're like, wow, I am smart. I was in a meeting yesterday with 10 of my business owner friends, and we were talking crypto, and they all think they're geniuses. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I've seen it before.
I was same thing. I was at my mechanics, and he was telling me about cryptocurrency that he's doing with his son. And so, but it's the thrill. It's in that excitement period.
It's very thrilling. It's very in our primitive brains of getting rich. I can quit my job and all that stuff. So anyway, so that's usually followed by, starts going down. We start getting a 10% correction in the stock market or a 15% correction. People go, it's temporary setback. I'm still a long-term investor. I can handle volatility. And then it goes down 20%. And then it goes down 25%. We all experience the significant, V-shaped decline and recovery in the pandemic. And then eventually, you get to a point where in really bad markets, like 2008, 2009, that you get to a point of despondency. And capitulation.
We had people coming into the workshop saying, I can't handle it anymore. I got to go to cash.
Yep. And so this is a, it's a wall of worry and wall of greed. And it's just, it's as old as, as human beings have been around. It's in our DNA.
Yeah.
So this is it's kind of an older chart, and it's 2013. I've seen some recent ones. I just didn't have time to find the new one, but this also talks about what people do. So at the bottom, at the top, the thrill stage, people are buying. The inflows into stock mutual funds are at their highest at the very top. Okay. And then what people do is the flows into the bond market, the opposite of stocks, or the safe money, is at the highest at the bottom of markets right before stocks are about ready to recover. This shows here that if you just, over this period, I guess this is it's a 43-year period. The stock market, the S&P 500 averaged 10.4%. But if you missed 5 single days, the 5 best days, that goes down to 9. If you miss the 15 days, it goes to 8. And so basically what that's saying is the stock market goes in big chunks. It goes up a lot and it goes down a lot. It doesn't just go up a little tick here, every single day. So you have to stay invested is the moral of the story. Here's another study by Vanguard, investor returns versus, by different asset class. I won't go into this, but it's this behavior and the results. Study after study shows that we're just not good at handling the emotion when it comes to stocks, particularly.
We buy and sell.
We do at the wrong time.
At the wrong
usually.
time. Yes.
Okay. So, oops, I didn't change. That's kind of interesting. Sorry, eclectic. I stole that from them, obviously. This is Dr. Richard Thaler. He is a behavioral economist, okay, at the University of Chicago. He wrote a book. He's one of those articles that Pete that mentioned on the website. He wrote a book called Nudge, and he also studies in investor behavior. But he said two types of people out there. There's economists and humans. Humans think like humans. Economists don't. And I don't know what economists are. There's so many jokes, just as many lawyer jokes as there are economist jokes. So
yes,
but I'll leave that to your imaginations. He says humans are impatient, they're inconsistent, they're distracted by irrelevant factors. Financial behavior is largely a problem of self-control.
By the way, this is exactly what Warren Buffett says as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Warren Buffett, said, his recommendation for people, his kids or his wife, just buy the S&P 500 because it's, if you overthink it, you get into this trap.
Yeah.
This is kind of a funny slide by Carl Richards, but it's true. The investment return, the difference between the index and the investor return, it's that behavioral gap, he calls it, which is what we're going to talk a lot about today. Okay, so let's go to the second section. Let's talk about what is causing that. What's the root cause? And it really is, you have to get at least a big picture understanding of the evolution of our brains and how they work. And there's really three main parts to our brains. Okay, there's the reptilian part, which is basically, survival, reproduction, making sure the heart is pumping and we're breathing in and out oxygen and such. There's the limbic system, which is the emotional center of our brain. And these are very old parts of the brain. So, and then there's the neocortex, which is, I guess you call the human brain, the logic, abstract. This is what we think of ourselves as being intelligent. But it's interesting, our brains, and I'm sure everybody has heard this, they are such powerful computers that I looked this up and this number just blew my mind, is these brains, all three of these systems are working together for you or against you, but the brain can produce 38,000, look at my stat here, 38,000 trillion operations per second. So that's all the neurons that are firing per second. And this is all taking, this is what kind of leads us to all these things we're talking about. Okay.
But we hate using it.
That's right. So that reptilian brain is also, I forgot to mention, is where we have our fight, flight, freeze, like a tiger is chasing you. It's automatic. Okay. And one thing I'm going to talk about a little later is kind of make the case that it's the automatic part of our brain, our reptilian brain, and our limbic system, the emotional part, that's really making the decisions for us, even though we think that we are making rational decisions. And a tiger chasing you, they've studied this through brain scans. It's no different than the emotions that are coming out in a stock crash or a stock frenzy. It's the same primordial emotions, okay, which I find it really interesting. Okay, so let's talk about the emotional part of our brain, which is really causing most of the problems. This little, I wish I could point to it, the red dot in the center of the screen right there is a picture of the amygdala. And this is the emotional center of our brain. And so like they've shown, studies have shown that, when they show like pictures of tigers or scary pictures or stock crashes, that amygdala lights up like bright red like that is what's firing. And so it's not, this is scientific research that's showing all this stuff.
This is not just voodoo.
This is not voodoo. So we're also going to talk about the brain, how our emotions take over. We also think more information is better. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about mental shortcuts and how we influence the media, or how the media influences us. We can influence the media. Okay, here is Daniel Kahneman.
I love this guy.
Who is, he's the granddaddy, the grand poobah, whatever you want to call him, of behavioral finance. He is probably that Richard Thaler's, looked up to him. So anyway, he wrote a book, I don't know how long ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, called Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow. It's a great book. It's a dense book, but it was a New York Times bestseller. So he actually won the Nobel Prize in economics. And guess what? He's not an economist. He's a psychologist. And so this is, 25, 30 years ago is when this study of behavioral finance started taking place. And it is all over our major, largest universities being studied.
Yeah, he came up with the idea that the government ought to mandate that everybody gets signed up for their 401k program, and then the employee has the right to opt out. Whereas before it was, you had the employers were not mandated to put people into the 401k. They were allowed just to ask them, would you like to participate in the 401k? And just that one move increased 401k participation by employees by over 35%. You had to opt out versus now opting in. And that was all due to Kahneman.
Yep. Amazing. Good stuff. Okay. So Kahneman, in his book, he details what he calls system 1 and system 2 parts of the brain and how they function. And this kind of coincides with the 3 parts of the brain that I talked about. The system 1 is what he considers the fast part of the brain. It's intuitive, it's emotional. And again, this is the part that we're making most of our investment decisions and money decisions.
Our reptilian brain.
So reptilian brain. And then system 2 is that neocortex, processing. It's slow, it's conscious, it's effortful. And one of the things I'm gonna, kind of reference is the brain doesn't like to exert a lot of energy. It likes to conserve energy, like a lot of parts in our body. And so, we'll talk about a little bit about how we start looking towards shortcuts in just a second. You were going to say something, Pete?
Well, I was just thinking of the system 1, 2 + 2, 4.
Hey, you got it right here. Look.
Oh, okay.
Okay, here's a little quick one. Salt and
Pepper. Yeah, we don't have to think.
2 + 2.
4.
And so this is the automatic part of our brains that is functioning. And
What?
So
you're not going to show the system 2, or is that kind of?
That's coming.
Okay,
I told you I'm a tinkerer. I told you. I didn't say I improved the presentation. I just said I tinkered with it and changed it.
Okay.
So the bottom line, our emotions they're leading to poor decision making. We shouldn't. These are just some kind of like tips that everybody knows. We shouldn't be making decisions when we're angry. We're impulsive, fear and disappointment, so on and so forth. So I'll move past that. We also go ahead.
Yeah, it just hits home. It's just people who are scammed. Everybody can get scammed. It doesn't mean that you're a poor human being. Yet people who have been scammed, they're so embarrassed. They hate to admit it. Or when they lose money, they don't want to talk about it with other people. It's annuity sales. I've talked to people about annuity sales and they go, hey, the guy didn't put a gun to my head. And they go, yeah, kind of, they did. They're professionals. Don't be embarrassed that you lost money, or, it's because they don't get at your intelligence. They go after your emotions.
It's so true. And we even see it with in client meetings. Where, and I think we're pretty good at this now is seeing it in their eyes when they're not getting certain parts of it. There's estate planning and bonds is very difficult for most people to understand how they work. And so we make an effort to say, let's slow down. Are you getting this? And we're consistently taking people's temperature. When it comes to, I can only imagine like annuity sales, thing. They're not taking your temperature to see, are you understanding it?
There's like 12 attorneys in the United States that don't work for an insurance company, according to Worth magazine, that understand an annuity. I mean, you're outgunned when you're talking to an annuity salesperson. Yep. Let's go to the next slide.
Let's do it. Okay. So we talked about that.
Yeah.
Fear of failure. We kind of talked about that. Okay. So let's talk about system 2. Okay. System 2, again, this is the big brain. This is how us humans think that we make decisions. We're very logical and smart and all that. Oops. So here's an example. 17. Well, I'll let you read it. What's the answer? Anybody in the chat? I don't even know how to look up the chat, but I can
maybe
imagine.
Don knows, but I certainly don't. I'd have to have my I'd have to quickly put my
exactly.
type it in.
So I guess I can imagine when you see that, you kind of like me, I'm like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to have to answer that. It takes too much effort. Okay.
Shuts down.
So then I start scrambling for my calculator. Okay. Like, what about this? What Wheel of Fortune. Okay. What is that? Sometimes it comes intuitive, right? But that, I don't want to spend too much energy on that. Okay. This is something, it's not a video, Pete. So this is something, a show called Brain Games on National Geographic TV, which is awesome. But they ask you in this video, they say, okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Saturday, Sunday. Now do it in alphabetical order. And just take like 10 seconds to do it. Okay, what's the first one? The second one? And so we're pre-programmed to think fast. This is in our system 1 brain. As soon as it goes to system 2,
it takes time.
It takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Okay. We also think that more information is better. Okay. So sometimes, we think if we do, if we just consume as much information, this is the opposite of that will make better decisions. However, you get to a point where you are overwhelmed with the number of variables. In fact, there's been studies that show that we can only process like 5 to 9 variables at a time. I can probably process like 2 variables at a time. But again, once you start getting to that overload, you start looking for shortcuts, okay, which we'll talk about in just a second. And this is kind of a funny, chart of some finance thing, but when you think about analyzing stocks, which you all, had the stock section last week or the week before, it's very difficult. There's so many variables in researching a individual stock. And
there are 30,000 mutual funds.
Yeah.
Just mutual funds. How do you even research 30,000 mutual funds?
Well, that's why the advent of the index fund is, because you don't have to do that. And
isn't it? Look at the prospectus. How much information is in a prospectus that it's overwhelming. I don't know anyone who reads a prospectus from cover to cover. It's just too much.
It's way too much. And we've had new clients come in that had existing annuities, variable annuities, index annuities. Try reading one of those.
Yeah.
Those are like 100 pages.
But the thing of it is that the entire financial regulatory system in the United States is based on full disclosure. if a reasonably intelligent individual has all the information, they could make a good decision. And Conaham is basically saying, no, that's a false assumption.
Right, right. Okay, so I'm going to move forward. So heuristics. Okay, this is a fancy psychological term to talk about biases and these shortcuts that we're talking about. So again, we're going back to the brain. Okay, so when there's conflict between these three systems and the brain is getting tired, there's too many variables, we look to find shortcuts. And in fact, you can't see this and it doesn't really matter particular, but this is the number in the center, in the circle, are the number of biases that we have as humans. And I'll just tell you, it's a lot. Okay. So I'm not going to go through that. Here's one example. Okay. Confirmation bias. So, we as humans, we seek out information, whether it's from the media or from whichever source that confirms our bias. We all have biases. And so if you are a Tucker Carlson watcher, okay, you have a bias. If you are a Rachel Maddow viewer, you have a bias, confirmation bias. And I challenge you to find the person that watches each of those 50% of the time.
I tried watching them both, and now I've watched neither.
It's terrible. It's terrible. So what it's nice, it's much easier to just kind of watch the thing that, fits our biases, our values or what have you. So just an example, the availability heuristic or bias. So we tend to think that what is covered in the news, our purview of the world, whatever that is what is actually happening in the world.
Conaham makes a point in his book that says that when we hear pundits after a particular event in the world, that pundits go back and say, this is why this particular thing happened, is exactly, he says, they're all wrong. He says there's so many variables that go on that it's impossible for the human brain to actually figure out why it exactly happened. And this is why we only have a little bit of information or a little bit that we can process.
I don't remember if it was in his book, but he asked, or someone asked the question, what has more deaths? People from car crashes or from, what was it? People dying from shark attacks or getting hit by flying airplane parts that fell off an airplane. People, of course, say that it's shark attacks. Nope, it's actually the other. So they just didn't do the research. Survivorship bias. This is the classic thing of the stock investor, the machismo person that they only remember their winners. I had Tesla. I didn't have, I'm not going to tell you about pets.com.
But people forgot about the real estate crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody brings up the previous real estate crisis. I mean, it's like real estate can just go up from here.
Exactly. And it's also, there's other biases, recency bias that I've mentioned, that human beings are not very good at looking far in the future. They're not good at remembering the past, but people can't really get their grasp around what it's going to be like at retirement when they're 30 years old. And so that's why savings rates are challenged. Okay. There's also, I'm going to go through this really quick. Experiences and luck also play a part of some of our history and our mistakes. There's something called money scripts. Now, this picture, I forgot to take that out. I'm sorry that I had my own money script story, but I don't think we're gonna have time about that when I was at Merrill Lynch. But money scripts are things that are kind of running in our supercomputer background that we learned from early ages. If you were
money is security.
Yeah, I mean, if you grew up in the Great Depression, or if you were a child during the Great Depression, which I've had clients they were forever changed. Very risk averse, very thrifty.
My parents lived through World War II in Netherlands. It's embedded.
Exactly. Now, this isn't contrary to what you said, Pete, but during the Great Recession, when the real estate crisis, Lehman Brothers was going out, the stock market was down 50%. That does make an imprint on your brain. It may not be at the forefront, but it's back there. And it does affect things. The coronavirus will ultimately affect us, and I'm sure in some way in how we view the future, 10, 20 years from now, even if it's under control. And then also, we do like to take, I guess this is in the wrong spot, but mental shortcuts. We do like to go through a herding behavior. We like to go with the flow. So if everybody's buying crypto, we want to buy crypto. And speaking of crypto, yeah, go ahead.
There's another one that I've recently seen, and it's magazines. Magazines like Orange Coast Magazines does a 5-star wealthy advisors. And literally you pay an advertising fee to get into that 5-star, but there's many others like that, but advisors or brokers participate in those to show that, hey, we're part of the herd. We're not an exception. We're right in the center of the herd. We're not on the outlying. There's somebody who gives us confirmation as to how good we are.
Exactly. Yep. Okay. So I was talking about crypto. So here's my crypto story. Okay. So this is Shibu Anu. Okay. This is from a Coinbase account. Okay. And so this is one of those crypto coins. Shibu Anu is some company. I have no idea what it is, but they went out there and issued, some of you may have heard of Dogecoin. So this is like a Dogecoin equivalent, but Shibu Anu went out and created out of thin air 999 trillion coins. They're not real coins. You can't hold them. They're digital coins. And so a friend of mine, I was having lunch with him a couple of weeks ago. He's been trading this. He put $5,000 in it and made $15,000 in 1 week. And he thinks he's genius. And I guarantee you he doesn't view himself as being lucky. Okay. It's pure gambling. And so oftentimes people view luck as skill. And in this meeting yesterday, one of my very good friends was talking about his son, who has, I think he's probably 25 years old, and he has a Roth IRA worth $600,000 right now. Okay,
because of his trading in.
How does that happen when you can put $5,000 in per year? And it's because his dad told him to buy Tesla and Bitcoin. Okay.
God.
Now, does my friend's son, is he going to be overconfident, you think, with his ability to pick the next, Bitcoin or the next Tesla? Does my friend who picked it, how much of that is skill and how much is luck? For my friend, I would make the argument that it's probably half luck, half skill, because he did the research into it. But his son, who knows how that's going to leave a, imprint on him. Okay. So
I find anything that comes easy, you don't learn a lot from.
Right.
That's the difference between earning money and receiving a gift as money.
Exactly. Okay. So let's see here. Let's skip that right now. So, oh shoot. Wait, hold on a second. I'm going to skip these real quick because these got misplaced. Sorry. So we are also influenced greatly by the media, which I've touched on. This is obvious. Okay. And, we should know that investing in entertainment's not the best idea. And because of our emotional brains.
Well, but we got to understand that the media needs eyeballs, and the more eyeballs that they have on the screen means that they can earn more. So it's all about the eyeballs. So they have to appeal to our reptilian brain. Absolutely. They can't appeal to our cortex.
Exactly. So, Jim Cramer is everybody's favorite whipping boy. Jim, if you're listening, don't hold me It's true though. So his taglines are, you can't afford to miss it. You've got to get in the game. And, there's some funny videos of him showing this, and, he just ramps people up. And you know what? He's got a great following, but I've been told that his track record isn't all the best. Although I don't have that on my screen here. The media sells fear. Okay. They love stock market crashes. Any traumatic event, I don't remember the term, but plane crashes, stock market crashes, it sells. Trump sells newspapers, or are there newspapers anymore? I think they're still around. Yeah. It's a bloodbath on Wall Street. It's in freak out mode. Stock market's crashing. These are all just, you can't get these out of your brain. This is just a hilarious video, which I can't play, but the media, Jim Cramer went in February 2009 on the Today Show, and he said, Pete, you may be able to act it out better than I can.
Wow. It basically said very sincerely, after he thought about it all weekend, that you should sell all your equity holdings and go to cash for the next 5 years. And
he didn't say for 5 years. It's when she asked him about it.
Oh, that's right.
Clarified, and he says yes. If you need it for 5 years, and imagine if you were those followers that were getting the game. What do you think they did?
Yeah.
And during that time, and this is during the Great Recession, it was very, very scary. I was doing some of these It's Your Money things during that time. It was a scary, scary time. So this is kind of funny. This is where he gave that interview, and the S&P 500 was at like a little over 1,000. 5 years later, it was up here at 1,900, and the S&P total return during that time period, that 5-year time period, he told you to be in cash, was 88%.
Yeah, and this was in a no-brainer index fund. This is not an 17.6% return in some hidden kind of investor. This is the S&P 500.
Yep. And then I did it again from that date to today. And remember the last slide, the S&P was at 1,900. Now the S&P is at 4,600 plus. Yeah, I hope they got back in the game after getting out of the game. That's all I can say. The media, this is classic. Fortune magazine, Barron's, they all come out with their 10 stock picks or their 10 mutual funds of the year. And every single one of them, you can see their 10 recommend companies here 10 years later. Broadcom down 88%. This is a little dated. Schwab down 58%. Some of these have come back, but the best mutual funds that they show are the worst performing. It's really quite funny.
Yeah.
So anyway, the media gets us ramped up. So I can't ask anybody in the audience because I can't hear you or see you what this is, but this is the molecular compound. I Googled it. Hopefully it's right, of dopamine. So we have a new thing that's happening that we've touched on, and it's the effect not only of the media, but of social media, which I would say is even way more destructive than the effect of the media. We've heard the Reddit thing where people are trading GameStop and AMC and Instagram. So teenagers, millennials, me, people are all getting hit with notifications and information hundreds and thousands of times a day. And that dopamine, each one of these can be a dopamine hit, which affects you psychologically. There's a study done back in the 50s that they took rats and somehow they were able to block their dopamine release. And what they discovered is these rats died within 3 days. They didn't have the will to eat or drink without having the effect of dopamine. So that's how powerful of a compound that is. So this is my Robin Hood story, which my son has been doing the Robin Hood thing. I think this is just funny. Hopefully you do too, that you can get a Robinhood trading account and you only need to be 4 years old. So I think, I think they are, Robinhood is now famous. They're in the headlines because the SEC is looking at them for their quote unquote gamification of their app. It's like a video game. And I've seen it.
Gambling.
Yeah, well, it's investing, but it's in the form
Not
of
investing.
a game.
It's gambling. It's bottom line gambling. Online.
I
with
agree.
The stock market.
I agree. But it's investing, but it's gambling. But what it does is I've seen it. On the Robinhood, app, it'll show all the stocks, the 10 stocks that are up the most for the day, up 100%, up 90%, up 80%. And my son would see this, and that's what he would buy.
By the way, brokers don't have to have a college degree. All you have to have is be 18 and pass an exam. So all they need to know is how to sell. So I'm not surprised that Robinhood, all you have to be is age 4+ in order to participate.
Right.
Robinhood doesn't care. It's all about transactions. The more transactions, and I love the name. I mean, the whole image of Robinhood,
yep.
But it's all about transactions.
Well, it's about transactions and getting people to make more through the game aspect of it. So just to give you a couple of examples, the whole screen goes green when your stock's up. The whole screen goes red when your stocks are down. When you sign up, you get one free share of stock. And this share was worth $3.83. That's a big deal. Hey, they gave me a free share of stock. My son was stoked. He was really happy.
Yeah, but Procter & Gamble does the same thing. If they have to figure out, they spend 10 times more on figuring out how to market the product than they do on the market itself, on the product itself.
Well, and then that's what they're saying. The folks at Instagram and Facebook at the early stages. This is all a grand design.
Yes,
of these dopamine hits.
Yeah.
Just also if you refer a friend, hey, they give you another free stock. To get your free stock, you hit this button and it goes like a slot machine. And free confetti goes out. SEC is trying to get on them about their confetti. You get the point. It's dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. So my son was losing money all the time. And so finally we carved out some money. I said, you got to carve out some money, buy some mutual funds, some index funds. and then I let him do, the other part of the portfolio. And he since lost interest because he was losing so much money. He lost interest in that part.
Well, it's not that much different than if you watch CNN and Fox and what kind of commercials are on there. Reverse mortgages, pharmaceutical drugs, Medicare buys. In other words, they're appealing to the audience and they're appealing to the reptilian part of our brain.
Sure.
It's not to the intellectual part.
Exactly. Okay. So that's the section. I've ended the section about the brain. Hopefully that was kind of entertaining. If you do want to learn more about it, there's a great book called Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. It's out right now. That Kahneman book's great. Thaler's book called Nudge is also really good. A lot of good stuff out there.
PBS has a series called The Hidden Brain. It's also a podcast on NPR. The brain, we think the brain is under our control, but after studying all this and reading about it, gosh, I don't believe that any longer.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so let's go to what do we need to do to be better investors? We have just a few more minutes here, 10 more minutes. So how do we remove emotion? What way is it with investing is to create an investment policy statement. This is it's creating kind of a rules-based system, which kind of takes the emotions out.
But financial plan is similar. When you do you do a financial plan for every client, Mark?
Not every
I mean-
client, well, I mean, we do financial planning, but like a retirement type plan is when you're 40 years old, you're projecting out 40 years with
But
all
you
the
put
variables.
something down in writing.
Oh, absolutely. We do written plan that says, here's what we need to do to get, certain things accomplished.
So that after a year, you kind of remove the emotion and you kind of wrote down what to expect, and then you adjust it again the second year.
Well, exactly. So we'll have a written plan, and then we will review that plan, whether it's 6 months later or a year later, to see how it worked compared to what actually happened.
And is that for your firm? Is that financial plan an extra cost, or is that included in?
No, it's all included. We don't have any investment only clients. Every client has our full wealth management suite of services.
Okay, let's go to the next point.
Okay. Ask additional questions. If you can entertain competing hypotheses. Again, in politics, right? If you're in a hole, I mean, just read whatever. Maybe it might make sense to read the competing opinion, which is the other thing. What's the opposite look like? So just try to ask additional questions. This is what Kahneman said. His recommendations was kind of funny. Seek out people who like you, but don't care about you. Seek out people who like you, but don't care about your feelings. And by the way, and then he also said,
by the way, this is the point where I think it's really important to go see 3 different fee-only financial advisors before you make your final decision, because you seek out people who are like you, but they don't really care about your feelings. They're looking at your financial statements and you get their opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, just like anything else, like we just did a kitchen remodel. You interview 3 contractors, you get ideas, you get new questions to ask of the next people, and then you can go back to the first person and ask clarifying questions. It's always a good idea. Kahneman also said, don't trust people, trust algorithms. And he basically said in his book, he doesn't have great confidence at all that we can make these changes. So I think if you are one of the people out there, and finance and investing is you can learn it from a book. It's with indexing. You can keep it simple. And if you have the ability to invest it and never look at it, or you're procrastinate, or you're just lazy or whatever, you can be an awesome investor. If you have problems where you're reactionary and very emotional, then that's where seeking out a financial advisor might do some good.
It prevents you from making the big mistake.
Exactly. Okay, so that's more just kind of taking the emotions. Now let's talk about just kind of this could be a summary of some of the things you've already heard. I don't know.
Yes.
But I think to be better investors, we need to be disciplined. We need to add diversification. This is from an investment perspective. And then let me just go through these real quick because we're short on time. Discipline. And this is true that Thaler, he's got a bunch of, great quotes. Investors hate losses more than they love gains. And they focus too much on the near term, even when it comes to long-term investing. That is just, I've seen that firsthand. They hate losses more than they love gains. And so people will not sell losers because they just want to get back to even. That's called this, I think, the sunk cost fallacy bias. And so you really need a disciplined approach. What would that look like? Well, it's having, if like in our trading, we have, if a certain class of investments goes up 15%, then we shave it off and we trim it and then put it into something that's underweight. So that's more kind of a rebalancing strategy, but that's the discipline. You talked about the plan. We do use these one-page plans. When I was at Merrill Lynch, we did financial foundations, which was what they called the plans that they sold. They were like 100 pages of junk that was obsolete. So we prefer one-page plans because they're easy to track and they're easy to understand. Okay, so that's also a good disciplined approach. Number 2. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but diversification
is key is absolute key to safety.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and then this is incredible. I can't even see this myself. So this is they call it a quill chart. It's pretty famous in our industry that talks about the top performing class of investments versus the lowest performing and everything in between. And so the diversification, this kind of shows it. If you can point out, like, let's just look at the purple at the top in 1991, and you just see how it goes from the top all the way to the bottom, and then it circulates all the way to the top and then all the way to the bottom. So things go up and down. They get expensive, then they get cheap, then they get expensive. And so I've always said in any portfolio, if you don't have one investment that you're not happy with, you're not diversified enough.
I like that line.
Allocation, and again, it's the same thing I just talked about. Have your bond stocks according to your risk tolerance. This is really, in this next slide, it's the most important decision you can make from an investment perspective. This brings in, yeah, go ahead.
Go back to the other previous slide. All of these investments here are available on a national stock exchange. There is no reason to go private placement. And what does private placement mean, Mark?
Well, when I hear that, I think private placements are they're not publicly traded. They're private investments that have lockout windows, like you put money into and you can't they access it. Some of these, you might be able to get in or take money out quarterly, some once a year, some once every 5 years.
But this entire portfolio that you see up on the screen right here, you can get out of you can liquidate this investment in 3 to 5 days.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's good. Let's continue.
Okay. And then this study that I was mentioning, they found that 94% of your expected returns come from one decision, and one decision only, and that's how much you have in stocks, bonds, cash, real estate, the percentage. And so even if the underlying stocks are less important than that you're in stocks, the percentage you're in stocks. So that's very important to understand. And that's what you call your asset allocation. So number 4, rebalancing. Rebalancing is simply, when your stocks go up, you start at 50% stocks and they go up or down, you just simply sell back to target. Okay. And there's been lots of studies done on rebalancing the right frequency, and it's inconclusive. So basically my advice is, if you're rebalancing, just keep it simple. You either do it quarterly or just pick one day of the year. It could be February, November 11th. Every year I'm going to rebalance back to my targets. And that's more effective than not rebalancing.
Love this chart.
Yeah, this is huge. So minimize fees. This shows $1 million over 30 years if you had a 6.5% return. The difference of the money you would have at the end of 30 years, depending on the fee you paid. So, 3% fee, you could equate that to like an annuity, okay, with all the costs in an annuity. A 2% fee was the typical managed asset fund. When I was at Merrill Lynch, it was you could start at 3% and discount it down to 2% or something like that. But those fees really, at the end of the day, what's most important is your return after fees and after taxes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the thing of it is that for young people, if you look at 5-year return, it doesn't, it's not dramatic, but start looking at the compounding and how compounding works. And that's why fees are just so important over the long term, because you cannot win if you have a 3% fee.
Exactly. And it's total fees. I'm sure you went into expense ratios and management fees and such.
Yeah.
Okay, we're short on time. So number 6, selecting the right kind of advisor. I think we've talked about that.
Yes.
Pete's Ask First firm is great. There's a great tool through a fee-only organization called NAPFA, NAPFA, that gives you a list of like 25 questions to ask advisors. And I call them the questions that make an advisor sweat. They're good questions. And I suggest that you look at that if you're interested in that, but always find a fiduciary. Okay. Fee-only advisor, I think a fiduciary is, I can go to work and feel good every single day. If you're selling product, you can't say that. And that's for a reason. And then I guess that is it. So the best thing you can do is, I think, have an awareness of the behavioral finance aspects. Okay, just awareness, and then build structure around that, build discipline by either doing it yourself or working with a financial advisor that can take the emotions out. It's very, very important.
So if you want to do it yourself, go to a Vanguard, for example. It's they minimize fees and cost, and they have funds that you can understand for your diversification strategies. So just for an example, in this industry, it's all about keeping it simple, stupid. It's an oxymoron almost. It doesn't make sense. You mean to tell me that if I paid an advisor more monies per year, that he can't perform any better than you, Mark?
It's sorry. I think right. No, I'll tell you my feeling on this is, you can go to Vanguard, read a book, go to Vanguard, buy a handful of mutual funds or a lifestyle fund. It's a fund of funds.
Yeah.
Really, what the difference between that and what we do is maybe we have a slightly different allocation, but also we're very in tune to tax minimization and rebalancing, taking the emotion out of it, and then also all the financial planning that we do. Okay. Yeah. That's the difference. People
forget that, hey, I'm going to want to make a gift to my kids. You help them out with that. Hey,
Mark,
I want to
Mark, is your next slide your contact information?
It is not. That would have been a good idea, huh?
That would have been a good idea. That would have been, because one of the questions—
I don't carry business cards. I
understand.
I'm so bad.
I don't have any business cards. So
you can find me if you want.
A couple of questions come up. One is, do you, and I don't believe we asked this in the Ask First form, can someone call you up and you'll spend time with them in an hour time or something, looking where they are and make suggestions, or is that something you do?
Yeah. So normally what we do is we start with a phone call, and because I don't want to waste people's time and they don't want their time wasted. So sometimes people need like a hourly financial planner. Some people, so it's about just finding the right fit. And then, we'll do free reviews of investments, and spend whatever time is necessary, any means necessary to find if there's a good, comfortable fit.
What's your minimum?
So our minimum is going to be, $500,000. If we're managing money, it's a $5,000 fee.
But if someone said, I just want you to do a plan for me, what would that probably cost? Financial plan?
Well, we don't do that, but it should cost probably anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000, depending on how complex it is. And then hourly planners will charge you anywhere from, I don't know, 150 to, I don't know, Pete, what do you think? $300, $350, something like that. Yeah. And not everybody needs like us. Okay. Some people, and that's what I'm trying to do is just say, and that's why I tell people, not everybody needs us. But here's some great people that you can call that do these other types of planning. And so it's a good first call because I do have a pretty big network.
And your contact information is on your Ask First form, I am certain.
It is.
They could download that. And when you revise these slides so that you're going to put them on the website, you're going to add a slide at the end that has contact information. That's a
That's a
very
good idea.
Don.
That's a fantastic
I
idea.
like that idea,
Yes,
Don.
yes.
Okay, we're basically out of time. So Pete, do you want to say anything in wrapping up our,
Why don't
8 weeks?
we have a couple of questions that we can go through.
most of them
but-
we have, the one that I really liked and I didn't ask it along the way. Since so much effort in our brain goes to our visuals, does that mean we shouldn't be looking at charts and graphs? What?
Is that from Kirk? The majority?
Yeah.
It came on earlier when you had a chart up. So
Yeah, I think if I had to answer that is that understand the chart that you're looking at. And so if you're if you're looking, you can only
hang on,
handle so many.
Pete, hang on a second. Mark, why don't you stop sharing? This thank you is a little big.
Good
And
idea.
There
why
you
don't
go.
we go ahead and stop the recording?
Well, no, okay, then before I do that, then I'm going to say, this has been It's Your Money. This is week 8, your money and your mind. And thank you very much for being a part of this. This is the conclusion of the series of It's Your Money. Tomorrow, Pete and I will be here doing the final session of It's Your Estate. And again, the recordings are there generally within a week or so after the end of, or a few days rather, after the end of the session, and they should be there until next April. So at this point, I'm going to stop the recording.